Today on the Topping Show, Bud Light Longhorn tweet has a broken horn. Vivek on Trump right ideas goes viral. Trump nearly doubles the New Hampshire primary results compared to 2016. U.S. automakers to skip the Super Bowl for the first time in years. Meow's transmissions get some good wins in 2023 as we examine the vehicles with the top take rates. In-N-Out closes their first store in 75 years of business, and Ford recalled nearly 1.9 million Explorer SUVs because their trim pieces can just fly off. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of The Topping Show is sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. I say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, reach the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of January, so if you click that button, I'd greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, you have U.S. automakers to skip the Super Bowl for the first time in years. Now this as the automotive community continues to struggle with record high interest rates as well as having business ideas that are not profitable, aka for the big three, electric vehicles. They are pretty much all losing money on them. The only company really making money on EVs thus far is Tesla, which is, interestingly enough, the only successful American automotive company since Chrysler was founded all those years ago, which is a fun tidbit fact of the day. Now, this comes to us thanks to the Detroit Free Press, specifically as a writer by the name of Eric Lawrence. And they note that specifically Stellantis, for the folks who do not know, Chrysler went bankrupt so bad in 2009 that they actually sold out to a European company called Fiat, and they reorganized, and the new name that they came up with was Stellantis, which sounds almost like a science fiction character or some type of Italian boxer, perhaps. But nevertheless, that was the name they chose, and that is a conglomerate of many brands, to say the least. And Chrysler, being the U.S. head of that owns both Jeep, Ram, Dodge, and of course Stellantis owns also Fiat. They also have Maserati and many other European brands that I can barely pronounce. Now, it looks like they're all three will be skipping the Super Bowl. Let me see. When it comes to specific quotes, let me see here. Stellantis is continuing to try to cut costs. Representative Diane Morgan said, quote, "With a continued focus on preserving business fundamentals to mitigate the impact of a challenging U.S. automotive market, we are evaluating our business needs and will make the appropriate decisions to protect our North American operations and the company. In light of this assessment, we will not be participating in the big game of the year," unquote. Now, it's one of those instances where perhaps one of the most prolific automotive ads in history, I would have to say, comes from Dodge, which is aka Chrysler, which is aka Stellantis, when they had that Super Bowl commercial a couple years back called, God Made a Farmer. It was one of the most viral moments, I think, in their company history. And fun business fact, I believe is also the advertisement was by the Richards Group, headquartered in Dallas, Texas. Now, it's one of those instances where I always debate, is it really worth it? It looks like last year Fox charged between $6 and $7 million for a 30-second advertisement spot for the Super Bowl, which, if you look, is actually decreasing in popularity with less and less people tuning in. And Jim Farley, CEO of Ford, also suggested that the huge cost of Super Bowl advertising is a poor use of spending, which some might think this belongs in the business blunder section of the podcast, but I actually kind of think this is business brilliance, because you can create a lot of allure and interest around a product with a Super Bowl ad, but I would actually argue that the best Super Bowl product ad placements would be the ones that are have a more of a entry-level price point, something like a Pepsi or Coca-Cola, something that is under $5. Because when you have these big automotive purchases, even when I was in the automotive community, I always ask people, can you really justify commercials on TV, get alone the Super Bowl? They're millions upon millions of dollars, and let me know if I would love to hear if you know anyone who has ever actually said, "Oh yeah, I purchased a car because I saw it in a sports balls commercial," which it is second to only a house, the largest, most expensive thing most Americans will purchase in their lifetime, and they'll be paying it off for sometimes a decade, which is a concern for another time, perhaps. I just don't think there's any justification to pay for these very expensive, extravagant Super Bowl commercials, with the exception of maybe if you're a new automotive company. But that industry is so cutthroat. There are very few startups. There are a couple in the EVs, but we're seeing them go bankrupt left and right. Most of the profitable automotive companies have been around for quite some time, and you already know the brands. And for instance, when I was looking at a car to purchase, when unfortunately I was in an accident, so I had to purchase a car, I basically had my categories. It had to be a stick shift, had to be reliable, ideally get good fuel economy but still have fun. I know that's a little bit of a contrarian statement, but I just had my criteria and I searched forums, YouTube review videos, and I came across the 2018 Honda Civic Si, which only comes with a stick shift, as all cars should have by default. And I would say it's the best of both worlds. There's something oddly satisfying about passing a $70,000 plus C8 Corvette on the track with my little car, which has happened a couple times. But nevertheless, this money could be much better used with either paying car reviewers, just having more grassroots advertising, and even then I would debate, I mean, is it really a big deal? I mean, GM, they spent a lot of money, which May would say is some of the business ineptitudes of the CEO, Mary Barra, when they hired the old Austin Powers actor Michael Myers for their EV commercial with the Super Bowl a couple years ago, where they talked about how General Motors is going to go all in on EVs, which statistically right now is a business blunder brewing for the year. They're losing money left and right, and the consumer preference is shifting much more to hybrids. But again, it is still shocking though, because I mean, again, GM did a whole thing with Netflix last year for the commercial. It's just, they put a lot of money into these things, but I think it's one of those things where now that the times are tough, you can't borrow cash for free. It used to be many businesses would be able to fund a myriad of the projects because the interest rates were basically zero for many, many years. Now that those chickens have come to roost, so to say, I think we're going to see a lot less of this extravagant spending where you cannot easily directly correlate the actual marketing spending to the actual results, which when you get to these certain big projects like a Super Bowl commercial can be hard to quantify. But let me know, do you think this is actually a bad idea for them to skip the Super Bowl this year? As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Thank you everyone again for taking the time to tune in today. Again, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of January, so click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, leaving a thumbs up, a thumbs down, or comment is a great way to give me some additional comments and additional feedback on how I can make the show better and better. Also, and lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.